What's happening, FlowChat Connector? In this video, we're going to talk about how to tell a story during a sales call. I think it's valuable for everybody. If you're not using stories to sell, you need to increase your game. And this is going to be the framework that you can implement right into your sales process that will truly allow you to accelerate with telling stories in sales. What's happening, FlowChat Connector? Sean here, back at you with another high ticket tune-up. I hope you're doing really well today. I just wanted to reach out to you and say welcome to Storytelling 101. I'm really excited about this today for you. We are going to dive into how to tell a story during a sales call, which is a fantastic thing. I think it's something valuable that everybody can use. And I'm going to give you a formula that's very, very, very simple to actually understand. So let me know in the comments if everything is good. Don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. But here we go. Let's dive in. What are we talking about? How to tell a story during a sales call is really valuable, super important. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, what are we even talking about? Well, during a sales call, there's certain places during your sales where stories make a lot of sense. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk about exactly where and how to put those in. But today I'm going to cover the formula, because if you understand this formula and you can use it each and every day, you're going to win at a high level. So here is the TED Talk formula. Again, this is not from me. This is from people that have been doing this for years and years and years. Some of the best storytellers on earth. If you've ever watched a TED Talk, you know what I'm talking about. The formula they use is a 5-point formula, and I'll just pop it out. Here you go. Boom. So it's you got to have a character in your story, right? So the more interesting the character, the better. You got to have a conflict. There's got to be a spark or some sort of like a light bulb moment. And there's going to be a change in the character and then a takeaway message. Now you can tell these stories in 30 seconds or 2 minutes, or if you need to, you can blow them out into 15 minutes or even an hour-long story. And again, if you just watch, go to YouTube and Google TED Talks, or even look at Toastmasters winning speeches, and you'll see that every single one of them is a story that follows this exact formula. And I'm just giving it to you because I know if you can put this in your world, that's awesome. So let's talk through each of these 5 things, and we'll get to where we need to go. So first of all, we've got the first one is character. So when we're defining or describing a character, what we want to do, so again, in our sales conversation, there's usually a process, which I'll marry storytelling and the process in my next session. But when you get to a place where you want to tell a story during a sales conversation, start with the character. Now, the character can be you, or the character can be one of your clients. That's it. Just make it simple, right? What do they look like? What's their mindset? What are their hobbies or interests? What's their profession? What are the things that make that person unique and relatable, right? It's very, very important when you're describing your character not to say, oh, he was a quirky guy. You got to say something like, no, he actually loved to read the sex romance novels, and he wore his glasses a little bit crooked each and every day, and his hair was never done, and he always wore the same black shirt. Now, I'm saying those things as what does he look like versus, he was a quirky guy versus all the stuff that I just described. That's the difference. That's going to bring your character to life. That's going to allow your character that you're telling your story about to be relatable to the person you're telling it to. Secondly, you can talk about his mindset. Like he was trapped like a bear trap. His mind was like a bear trap, right? Like a great example of it wouldn't ever open and he needed to pry it open. Or you can talk hobbies or interests or professions. And the more detail you can go, and it doesn't have to be much. It just has to be like one thing that somebody can catch on to. Like, oh, I remember that guy telling me a story and he said that this guy had his mind like a bear trap, and then it'll help your prospect to remember that story later after your sales call. Really, really valuable, right? And once we've described the character, then we move into part 2, which is the conflict. So during the conflict, look, if you don't have conflict, you're not going to create curiosity and you're not going to create interest. In a sales conversation, the conflict is always one thing. It's very simple. It's the before your services and after your services, right? So in my world, it's like, hey, we help people with some sales tech that will truly allow them to track and build an organic solution or method to gaining traffic at scale. So one-to-one at scale, right? So we talk about, like this person had tried this and tried this and tried that and failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. And it wasn't until they happened to see one of my YouTube videos, they booked a call with us and they got on the phone with me and they realized that they're doing it a little bit wrong, right? That's the big conflict, right? So, but the conflict is they tried all this stuff and it never worked. And of course, as a prospect, you're always cheering cheering for the character in the story to win, right? And so that's where we got to be. Got to have a lot of conflict. The more conflict, the more interesting your stories are going to become. Once we get through the conflict, then we can talk about the spark, right? Like I just kind of mentioned, it's the wisdom or process that the character in your story receives in order to overcome the conflict, right? And so as I just mentioned, it's like, hey, this person came to us and they tried this and tried this and tried this, and they were on their last dime and they're losing their house and da-da-da. You get to like tell those stories that are real. And it wasn't until their friend said, go watch this YouTube video of Sean, and they took action. They called me. They said, hey, look, can you really do what you said on your YouTube video? And I said, yes. And then it was like, oh my gosh, well, like I've been trying all this stuff that's failed, but now you're telling me or showing me this different formula or this different new way. That's why different and new is superior to bigger, better, and faster. So always the spark should be something different or new that the character in your story just learned in order to overcome the conflict that they're facing, right? And then there's going to be a change in character, which is the next part of your story. Characters must change as a result of the conflict. So they must change their activity and actions. There has to be a difference in the character, either the circumstances of or his or her personality because of overcoming the conflict, right? Again, we talked on the phone. This particular prospect learned that there was actually a way that you could do one-to-one messaging in the DMs at scale and then track it to a level that no other tools on earth can track with and give you the results that you're looking for. And so when they realized that, they said, oh, if I've spent all this time doing it this one way, and now if I just did this and I made these few little tweaks, like I know I can win with that path. And like now you can feel or hear the change in that character in the story, right? And then the last thing, one of the most important, is the takeaway message. So what's the takeaway? Each story must have a key takeaway message. Typically your product or service is the solution. This is in sales, right? Now, in this particular case, as we go down that path of, the story that I'm kind of working on here. So this guy realized that, hey, if I just do it a little bit differently, or if I just use this new sales tech, I can change my results. And that's the move. Right? That's the takeaway, knowing that, oh man, all they needed was FlowChat, and that just using that new sales tech, that different sales tech is going to give them a little bit of a different perspective and an angle, and then they can actually grow their business. Now, these are the 5 steps in the story format. And that's all you need to know. If you know these things and you can memorize them and you just go through it and understand this, you are going to be a crusher when it comes to using stories during a sales call. With that said, you've just been tuned up. Don't forget, smash that like button, love button. Oh yeah, we got a boom coming in. Awesome. Thank you. Yes. So thank you for that boom. So that's it. That's the formula. Memorize that. Use it every single day. And I promise you will grow to another level.